Hi, I'm Associate Professor Andrew Singleton. I'm a sociologist in the Alfred Deakin Institute here at Deakin University.
And I'm Dr. Anna Halifoff. I'm also a sociologist of religion and part of the Alfred Deakin Institute.
Just the other day I was doing a focus group in a school somewhere in Australia, and it was straight after the bombings in Manchester at the Ariana Grande concert. And I was talking to those kids about their attitudes to different religions. And I asked them, what do you think about what's gone on? What do you think about Islam and religious violence? And the thing that kind of didn't surprise me, but I was really pleased about, was how tolerant they were and how they were able to describe a difference between that kind of religiously motivated extremism and the religion of Islam generally, that they were able to make a distinction and not just kind of see Islam in a negative light. And I think that says something about young people religion in Australia, which is what we're investigating in our new research project.
Yeah, our project is really looking at young people's attitudes towards religious diversity and non-religious worldviews. And part of it is also to try to map existing levels of religious literacy and interreligious understanding among young people in Australia.
And what we're trying to do is, once we've got a benchmark about what young Australians know about religious and non-religious worldviews, is think of ways in which we can help education policy so that we can educate young people in Australia to be more tolerant of religious, cultural and other kinds of differences.
What young people are telling us so far in our focus groups, and especially young people from so-called minority faith traditions, is that they're not learning all that much about diverse religions at schools. And really, that doesn't matter whether they're at a public school or at a religious school. There's not that much being taught about many religious minorities in Australia. So what does that mean? So at the same time, they're telling us that where they're getting their information from is largely from the media. And they themselves are concerned that in the media, linked to international crisis events, there's a lot of misinformation about religions generally and about Islam in particular. They also feel that the average Australian doesn't really know that much about not just Islam, but say about Buddhism or Hinduism or Judaism or other religions that have played an important role in Australia's history.
Yeah, and it's a really important time to talk about this stuff, because people go, well, why does it matter that we talk about religion? Because, the census is going to show that the single largest group in Australia is those who have no religious identity. But the fact is, in the past few decades, we've actually become increasingly religious diverse, and we have more faiths and more faith traditions in Australia than any time in the past. And it means we've got growing communities of Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and other groups in Australia. It's really important to talk about this stuff.
There is no doubt that Australia is becoming at once an increasingly multi-faith and also secular society or non-religious society. So while Christianity is still the largest religious group in Australia, the second largest is Buddhist, then Muslims, and the fastest growing is Hindus. We also, as Andrew said, have an increasing and significant number of people who say that they're not religious at all. And in terms of young people, what they're reporting is that largely, whether you're religious or not, your attitude towards your religious neighbour, for example, or your religious school friend is one that's, largely pretty understanding, curious in many cases. People have reported that especially non-religious people are quite curious about diverse religious traditions. But at the same time, not really all that knowledgeable. So these young people themselves, in response to that, but also in response to their own concerns about negative stereotypes about religion in the media, have said that they'd actually like to learn more about diverse religions in schools.
Which brings into focus the ways in which young Australians are taught. And so there's no national policy, there's no national approach and no national curriculum. A lot of kids who go to public schools in primary school might have had religious instruction, but once they get to high school, there's nothing, no defined program or policy that specifically teaches them about religious diversity. If they go to an independent or Catholic school, they may or may not receive it, but it all depends on the school, the state, the context.
That's right, Andrew. Currently in Australian government schools across the board, there's really hardly any teaching about religious diversity. In Victoria in 2015, the state government here has introduced for the first time within the curriculum 2 sections specifically on learning about worldviews and diverse religions. And the main reason for this is that education in Australia was initially set up as secular and a very sort of hard secular position, which basically prohibited the teaching about religion in schools. This is changing because I think people are realising nowadays that you can still be a secular society but still include teaching about religion as long as it's not indoctrination into diverse faiths, given that we are increasingly living in a multi-faith society and also working and travelling and interacting with online, for example, an increasingly multi-faith world.
Yeah, the experience I think we've had so far of talking to the teenagers in focus groups is that they're really relaxed about this. Like, they don't think that if they receive education about religions apart from their own, that somehow or other they're going to be indoctrinated into that position. They're actually just, like teenagers are, about a whole range of things, just really curious and hungry for knowledge. And so it's kind of exciting about the possibilities that can come from this research.
Yeah, for young Australians, diversity of all kinds, and including religious diversity, is the norm. You know, they've got diverse classrooms, they live in diverse neighbourhoods, they're consuming media from diverse sources. So I think the feeling is that their actual lived reality of diversity isn't matched by what they're currently being taught in schools and often what they're seeing in the media, which can be sometimes kind of pretty one-sided and pretty negative. So yeah, they're really calling for the education system to match their lived everyday understanding of religion.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope it's been informative, and we look forward to presenting soon the full findings from our research.